Some of the issues we were struggling with back in the 80s are still being debated upon in the courts of India. Issues like marital rape are still not quite something that's accepted all across the country and is a difficult issue. Violence against women is unfortunately on the rise world over, but in India, especially lately, we've been hearing about it in ways that we never experienced when I was a young woman in the country. And it's a difficult issue because we thought we had made great advances back then, and clearly not. I think with advancement, economic and social advancement, comes a backlash, and that's what the country is experiencing. There's a lot of economic advancement. Women are moving into arenas that they had not in the past, and expectations from some parts of society to keep them working. It's a good thing to have women in the workforce, but then they have to maintain their traditional roles at home. And any kind of social advancement is frowned upon by some sectors of society. And so that's where the tensions lie. I have great hope for the younger generations in the future, but there's a lot of education that has to happen. Upon moving to the United States, I come from a Sikh background, so I was raised in a home, a fairly progressive thinking. My parents really stressed education for their daughters and son equally, in fact, more so for the girls. And then again, I married into a home where I was encouraged to continue working, etc. And so when we moved to the United States, I was home at first, and I discovered, I'm straying a little bit, I think, but I'm going to stray just because, I came to the US and I thought I'd sort of arrived in the land of equality, and I realized, my gosh, how wrong I was. And the first thing was your immigration laws, which continue to be horrendous. In that my husband had an H visa, which allowed him to work, and as a spouse of a person with this working visa, I was not permitted to work. And it was for the first time in my life that I was actually dependent on somebody in a way that I'd never experienced before, and I couldn't even babysit. I had young children, and so it was fine. So it was nice to be home with the boys. Yet the fact that I didn't have a choice here was what bothered me more than anything else. So eventually, of course, I converted my visa to a student visa, went back and got my master's in law, and then went on to to work as an attorney and in a government bureaucracy, which I didn't enjoy. So I started thinking in terms of looking for work in the international arena for an NGO, preferably human rights, but then I'd done my LLM in environmental law, so that's what I was thinking about. During the course of this time, I had become a Baha'i. And one of the principles that really drew me to the Baha'i faith was its emphasis on equality, on social equality, on economic equality, on gender equality, particularly the emphasis on the belief on gender equality, and that the advancement of civilization is inseparable from, unless we have equality between all, and in particular between women and men. In fact, gender equality is considered one of the prerequisites for peace. Baha'is believe that there will be a time when there will be peace in the world, and But this is dependent on narrowing the gap between the rich and the poor, about doing away with excessive nationalism, unbridled nationalism. Unfortunately, we're living in a time when nationalism is on the rise, or at least talk about nationalism is very much in the news. And also, until we have gender equality, we will not have the circumstances in place where we can have sustained peace. So much of the work of the Baha'i International Community's United Nations office is based on engaging in discourses that are taking place at the international level around these issues, because we see these as germane to realizing that sustained peace. As Professor Mazzucelli said, that the hallmark of this stage is this growing awareness of the oneness of mankind, which is a basic tenet. It's the pivot on which all Baha'i teachings revolve. And it is unless we really understand what it means. And I think even as Baha'is we struggle with what is the oneness of mankind. What does this basic sense of everybody being equal imply? We speak about doing away with racial prejudice as well, and that again is one of those prerequisites to arrive at this place where we'd have peace.